But when you get to a certain level of poor, it doesn't matter if you're black or white or whatever color you are, because when you get to a certain level of poor, at the bottom it's all the same. That's why when you seen black and white people marching together, I wasn't surprised in certain situations and circumstances. Because at the very bottom, if you got any common goddamn sense, you can realize that, oh, it's all the same at the bottom. As you start climbing the ladder, shit starts to differentiate, and the differences will be more noticeable. And then you'll have this group wanting to fight for this, and this group like, okay, well, we need to fight for this because you're climbing up the economic ladder, you're becoming more secure. When you become more secure, you can take more risk, right? And when you can take more risks, then you can focus on injustices. But it's hard to take risks or focus on injustices when you're at the bottom, right? It's hard to do it because usually when you're at the bottom, you had to focus on one goddamn problem at a time. Right? Well, I'm gonna eat. What are we gonna eat for tonight? Or goddamn, the lights is due. How we gonna keep the lights on? So when you at the bottom, you usually have to tackle one problem at a time, and it usually takes all your goddamn energy just to survive. Right? Survival at the bottom is key. So it takes all your energy to survive. You don't have time to goddamn. That's why I don't bash or blame nobody when people can't always be a part of the movements. So a lot of people in our own lives, we are part of our own goddamn movement. Just a movement to try to fucking exist and stay alive and survive. It's a movement in itself when you're at the bottom. Nigga, I come from the bottom, right? I come from the bottom. I come from a neighborhood when I was a child in kindergarten, right? Ducking bullets, shootouts all the damn time. Precinct right across the goddamn street. Right. Precinct right across the street. They don't come to it's about 4 niggas dead. Then they come show up. They always come after the crime. And everybody knew them cops didn't give a damn. Cops ain't give a damn. They was there to only police our ass. Meaning come to crack heads and shit. They wasn't there to stop no crimes. Literally, when I grew up on 138th Street, Mitchell Projects in the Bronx, Willis Ave, literally, the police department was across the goddamn street from my project. Like you could just cross the street and you're at I think it was the 156th, 7th precinct, some shit like that. I can't really remember. I think it was the 156th, 157th precinct. But anyway, it was right across the street. And I never literally, it's amazing when I think back on it, because I never seen a fucking cop, right? You can see him kind of standing out, may see somebody smoking, or them bringing somebody into the precinct, the police department, growing up as a kid. But I can never remember seeing a cop unless they were coming to fucking arrest people. Like, I grew up directly across the street. When I say across the street, I mean from one sidewalk to the next. I literally grew up directly across the street from a goddamn police department, and I can never remember having an interaction with a cop unless it was to come arrest my father, right? Come to arrest my mother, seeing them arrest, my cousins or family members or friends we grew up with. That's the only time I ever seen them. Cop ain't never did anything for me, never shook my hand, never gave me no word of advice, none of that shit. And all the cops, when I grew up, back in the day, when I grew up in the Bronx, were all white. The whole hood was Puerto Rican and black, and all the cops were white. And it was amazing, as I think about it now, thinking back on those days, that growing up with a police department so fucking close to you and never having I never had a decent or good interaction with a cop. And I never even seen the cops. It was almost like these motherfuckers were ghosts. They would just pop up out of no goddamn where to crack heads and, cage people. It's the only time. I don't know where they went. I don't know where they were at. I mean, the Bronx is a pretty big place and New York is a pretty big place, but just thinking back on it, like I remember my mom's and me, nigga, we got robbed at a Chinese restaurant directly, right? So I live here, the precinct is across the street this way, then across the street that way on the next sidewalk is a Chinese restaurant. Nigga, I remember me and my mother and my god brother and sister and my mom's best friend, we all got robbed right across the street from the goddamn police department. Nigga, you can look out the window and see the police department in the damn Chinese restaurant. At gunpoint. And I could vaguely remember, because my mom was so shook. That's the most I remember about it. Is she was scared to goddamn death. It's the most I've ever seen my mom growing up, and that's when I realized shit was real. I don't know. I had to be maybe 4 or 5. I was a young buck, but this is something that stuck with me. the fear in her eyes. But I can vaguely remember the police showing up, or her talking to the police, and them having their little. That's when they used to carry the little flip pads and shit. And I remember, like, you know, them just kind of being dismissive and just like nonchalant, just like, oh goddamn, hurry up, I gotta go do this, or I need to go get some donuts. Come on, bitch, tell me what you need. Well, what happened? Right. So I remember that vaguely. And then they left, and then, you know, she never got back her bamboo earrings. She never got back her herringbone chain, none of that shit. Never got back my Sherilyn. They took my coat. Never got back nothing. They never found nobody. But it happened directly. My point being is, for a lot of us, the struggle is real. And when I say suffering, I don't say it as like, I don't think suffering needs to be something that is, if you're black, you should be ashamed of. I'm proud of. It's one thing that I know that I can do is I can out-suffer them damn white folk. So that's what I said. Now, when you see everybody getting in the uproar, even white people getting in the uproar, because they're starting to get a taste of suffrage. It's a lot of white families suffering right now. It's a lot of white families that's sitting in lines looking for canned groceries and shit, you know. Bread lines. Back in the day, they used to call them bread lines. There's a lot of white people that never been on food stamps, finally now having to see what it's like to try to get some government assistance. And it's a lot of the same white people that used to talk shit about black people and call it like welfare queens. And, oh, they're just using the money. Like if a person has a car, they shouldn't get welfare. What they need to get food stamps for? They got a car. Like, okay, my car could be 8 years old, and maybe 8 years ago I was doing good, but now, I'm not. Right? They go in your house and they say, oh, you got a washer and a dryer, and look, they got an air conditioner and a nice fridge. What they need? Well, look at this. They just using the system. They don't never fucking think that, hey, maybe this shit is like 5 years old or 3 years old, and maybe 3 years ago I was doing pretty good, and now I'm not, so maybe now I need help. Right? They like to judge and see like, oh, you got this utensil, you got that. Oh, you just gaming the system. Look at him, man. He got a nice car. He living in the hood in the project with this nice car and getting food stamps. He don't need that. They just using the system. A lot of these white families now, they got nice cars, nice refrigerators, nice appliances, nice TVs, find themselves on canned good lines, looking for handouts and needing welfare and government and food stamps. And now they realize that, oh, damn, yeah, last year we were doing good. Right? Last year we were doing good. We had the flat screen TVs. We got the new car, Betty. Goddamn, yeah, you know, everything was great. And now you find yourself broke, bankrupt, and needing help. Now, wouldn't it be foolish for somebody to walk by and see everything that you accumulated over the years of your life to assume that you don't need any help because obviously you were doing good in the past, but then you would ask that same person logically, well, what does that have to do with right now? So it's funny how a lot of people who used to talk shit about my people were users, and just because somebody got a car, they don't need no help. Just because somebody got a flat screen TV, you know, they living in luxury. Now they find themselves, them same people, right, filling out paperwork trying to get them damn emergency food stamp benefits. And then when it comes to them and their family, though, they want to, you see them all on the news, or I do at least, they want to legitimize it. And they, you know, want somebody to feel sorry for them. But those are the same people that wouldn't extend one piece of empathy for anyone else. And Joe Biden is one of those people. He's one of those people that looks and say, oh, they're trying to get over. Right? You can tell that he's one of those people because he comes from the old school set of politicians, the old racist school of politicians, the welfare queen politician. He's from back in that era, even though he tries to seem like he's progressive. Right? So this is why you see them saying we're going to means test the stimulus checks. Maybe they don't really need 2,000, they need 1,400. Oh, well, you know, well, if they made 75,000, they don't really need it. You got to at least make 50,000 or less to get it. Let's keep dropping the level so we can get less and less people with it. First of all, $75,000 ain't shit. Okay, depending on how many children you got and how big your goddamn family is, $75,000 ain't shit. That's basically a middle class life. And again, just because you made $75,000 and he's using, they're going to be means testing and using your income from like 2019. Right, because 2020 hasn't even been filed yet. So all of this shit is going to be based on how you were doing 2 years ago. This is that mindset, right? Well, you know, look, they made $75,000 2 years ago. They got a nice car, a nice house. They got flat screen TVs. They're up to date. They're modern. Look at that. All their living is modern. They got that shit 2 years ago or a year ago. What does that have to do with right now? Again, somebody who was doing good 6 or 7 months ago might be fucking struggling right now. I know because I've been there, and it can happen in a blink of an eye. You could go from sugar to shit.